and welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast. Today on the podcast, we're talking about movies a little bit. We're talking about Hollywood in general. There's a big debate right now. There's a big discussion on why can't Hollywood make any new original content versus the franchises, the serials, the big comic book series, all the classic remakes and reboots of existing properties versus why can't Hollywood make any original stuff? Why can't there be any new original stories? So we're going to talk about this debate a little bit, talk about some factors that influence it in Hollywood. First of all, there is original stuff out there. There is a ton of original stuff coming out. Three directors I'm going to talk about during this podcast are Christopher Nolan, Ari Aster, and Robert Eggers. Christopher Nolan's super well known. Even though he's super well known, his movies don't make as much money as some other bigger franchises, even though he's a blockbuster filmmaker. Christopher Nolan's a blockbuster filmmaker. But in some ways, he has this ability to make blockbuster films in like an indie way. He gets a lot of freedom. His films come across as beautiful and artistic, you know. Even his Batman take was very original. Ari Aster did Hereditary, really scary, disturbing horror movie. It came out last year. He's also doing Midsommar, which comes out here in a week or so. He's really just good director. Indie style director, but he's making some original content, original horror movies I really like. Another director is Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers made The Witch, slow burn thriller, came out a couple years ago. He's got a new one called The Lighthouse, which I cannot wait to see with Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe. These are three people who are putting original content out into Hollywood. Christopher Nolan has a new movie coming out. It's called Tenet. Sci-fi epic. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think that comes out next year. So there is original content. There are original things coming out from Hollywood and TV and film. We just don't hear about them as much. Think about this. Think about the weekend box office. Think about when a movie is about to come out. Right now in Hollywood, the way it works, and it's different than it used to be, but you got to make your wad of money. You got to make your big blast on the first opening weekend, second weekend. If you don't make a big splash on your first weekend, your first week in theatrical release, you're in big trouble. The trend right now in Hollywood is you have to hit it hard and you have to hit it big, and your marketing has to be on point because movies don't stay in theaters as long as they used to. Movies don't make as much money throughout the long run in theaters like they used to. They make them all right up front, top loaded. So studios are feeling their incentive is make as big a budget movie as you can and try to make as much money as quick as you can. Because think about how much competition there is. There's more movies than ever. There's more streaming services than ever. There's more sports than ever. There's more shit going on our cell phones. You got to get your money while you can early. Back in the day, Back to the Future, Raiders of the Lost Ark, these movies, they could rule the whole summer box office. They could be the number one movie for a whole summer. Because there wasn't much competing against them. People would go down to the movies to get away from whatever, listening to the radio, watching TV, and go see Raiders of the Lost Ark 5 times, 6 times. There wasn't that much competition. Now, you got to make your theatrical money on that first weekend. That's why people talk about the first weekend box office so much. This is one of the factors, I think, why we're having this debate about why can't Hollywood make new stuff versus franchise things. The incentive is to make a big franchise movie. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We're going to talk about that in a second. But the incentive is to make a big franchise movie or to be a part of a franchise. Because if you have this tiny little opening weekend window with your audience, you want to give them something that they kind of know already. A superhero genre, a superhero series. Batman, Spider-Man, Indiana Jones. Something connected to something that always was. You know, don't be surprised if you see Game of Thrones movies make it to the theatrical level. Game of Thrones offshoots. That's going to happen. So the way money is moving in Hollywood has changed so much. And so Hollywood is listening to the fans. That's the other thing too. If we want more original scripts, more original movies, less series, less franchise, less serials, then we have to support it. We have to pay for it. And a lot of times you have to pay for it on opening weekend. You know, Ari Aster, who I talked about, who's making these great horror movies, he's coming out with Midsommar next week. Let's support it. Let's go out and support it. It's funny that we talk about Christopher Nolan because even though he's a fantastic filmmaker, his movies don't make as much as like a Spider-Man movie will make. We got to support these original pieces, these original products. Demand it. But there's another side to it too. Like, we love the big superhero movies. We love the big serials. We love the big franchises. And there's nothing wrong with them if they're good. You know, I talk about this a little bit in my Aladdin movie review. There's nothing wrong with reboots and remakes as long as they're good. If the quality is there, the technical skill is there, the writing is there, the story is there. I'll watch a movie about the same character over and over and over again. I'll look and be open to all the different interpretations. If it's good. That's what's exciting. That's what we want to see. Take Spider-Man, for example. Spider-Man got a lot of flack because there's been 3 rebooted franchises for Spider-Man in the last 20 years. And people thought we might be tired of it. But look, we're not. Give us another shot at Spider-Man. Give us another interpretation. Give us another look at a comic book character. I think there's room for great filmmakers and great writers and great screenwriters and producers to come out and take franchises that already exist and put a new spin on it. And I welcome it. So in the debate of like, why isn't Hollywood creating more original content versus franchises? I don't look at it like evil versus good. Bring on more franchises. Bring on more repeated characters as long as it's good. Give us new takes. I'm not the guy who's going to complain when another Spider-Man franchise comes out, maybe after this one, or another Avengers franchise comes out, maybe after this current one. I'm not going to complain about it if it's good. If it's well done, then everybody is served. I just want to see a variety of interpretations. We have a new Batman trilogy coming out. Matt Reeves' Batman. It's going to be filming really soon with Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. I want as many skilled artists to take a crack at Batman as we can allow, as we can figure out. You know, it's just like the comics. We're all big comic book fans. And we love to see new writers on our comics. We love to see new writers on Wolverine. New writers on Doctor Strange. We accept it in the comic book world, and now we're starting to see that happen in the movie world. It's okay. And the TV shows. I don't mind if somebody does Spider-Man again and again and again. I want to see new interpretations. And I want to see people fuck with the mythos a little bit. I want to see people mess with the original Spider-Man story. Give us something different. What if there's a Spider-Man who's more like Bruce Wayne? He doesn't have powers and he's got to rely on his science and his skills. What if there's a Spider-Man who gets his powers in a different way? What if there's a Spider-Man who doesn't become Spider-Man until later in life? His mid-40s. What if there's a, let's fuck with the mythos a little bit. It doesn't always have to have that same original content. I think if it's done well, we'll be open to it. Yes, there will be people who get upset and get pissed. Don't fuck with that. Don't fuck with the comics. Don't fuck with the history. But if it's done well, we'll accept it. But back to what we were saying about the debate between original content. There is original content out there. There are original films out there. They just don't make as big a splash. Because the major studios have to promote their huge theatrical releases because they got to make all their money quick. People aren't willing to support a movie for a whole summer. It gets a quick shot in the box office and then that's it. This is a trend in Hollywood right now. This is a trend. And there's artists who are always going to be making this independent original stories that go under the radar, don't make a ton of money. That's always going to be the case. People are constantly wondering, like, when's the next The Matrix going to come out? When's that next big originally written fresh piece of work going to come out? When's a new superhero that we've never heard of before? That's not from the comics. That's from somebody's mind. When is that next original piece going to come? I think directors like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, although Villeneuve is doing Dune, a property that's been done before in his famous series of novels, I think these guys are representing a new era of skilled artists, skilled craftspeople. I think we got to squash this debate of why can't Hollywood do new original stuff. Trust me, there are people in Hollywood who are writing new original stuff. If you go down and you look at any production studio in Hollywood, there are stacks and stacks and stacks of scripts and pitches and treatments on the shelves. Stacks and stacks and stacks. They'll never be gotten to, because making money means we got to focus on what works. We got to focus on what works. There are a few people out there who can afford to take a loss and make an art original film. But we got to focus on what works, and that's what studios are hunting for. I say that's fine. We can ride this wave. We can ride this trend. We can ride the superhero era, the comic book era, the serial era, the reboot, remake, reboot. There was a rumor this week that The Matrix is going to be filming in the next couple months, and it's a big either prequel or reboot remake. We can ride this era of the reboots and remakes as long as they're good. Hellboy is an example of a remake, a reboot that was terrible. Comic book reboot, fans didn't support it, critics didn't support it, and it bombed and didn't make a ton of money. So to me, it's very clear. We can take the reboots and the remakes as long as they're good. As long as they're good. There's room for it. I almost don't think this debate really has any legs. I almost don't think like this why can't Hollywood do A, B, and C? Hollywood's doing what Hollywood does. We're supporting it. And I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying these big franchise movies. I enjoyed the Infinity Saga for Marvel. I'm enjoying this run of Spider-Man. I can't wait to see Spider-Man tomorrow. I'm enjoying this whole thing. I think most people are too. So we shouldn't be complaining as much about. We should be just savoring it. Savoring what's going on. Savoring what's out there right now. It's okay as long as it's well done. It's okay to get these big franchises. It's okay to get these reboots and remakes as long as it's well done. Throw us some curveballs. Blow our minds a little bit. Show us a new take on this. Show us your interpretation of these classic characters. And we'll support it as long as it's good. As long as it's skillful. Yeah, these are just some thoughts on trends in Hollywood. Thanks for listening to The Kevin Wright Show.